Welcome, everyone. Today, I bring you the story of a man whose life will inspire you to question your limits, face your fears, and become unstoppable. This is not just a book. It's a movement, a call to action. It's a real-life story that shows us the power of the human spirit to overcome unimaginable pain and struggle. This is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, one of the most inspiring books ever written. Why should you listen to this story? Because it's not a fairy tale. It's not about someone who had all the resources, support, or luck in the world. It's about a man who started with nothing, absolutely nothing, but found the strength to transform his life. This book is raw, real, and brutally honest. It's a story that has already changed millions of lives around the world, and it has the power to change yours too. David Goggins is not your average motivational speaker or self-help guru. He's a man who has walked through fire and come out stronger. He's a Navy SEAL, an ultra-marathon runner, and someone who holds world records in fitness challenges. But behind all those achievements lies a childhood filled with pain, fear, and struggle. If you've ever felt like giving up, like life is too hard, or like the odds are stacked against you, this story is for you. Because if David Goggins can rise from the depths of despair to the peak of success, so can you. In this book, David doesn't just tell us his story. He teaches us how to unlock our full potential. He shows us how to take control of our minds, face our fears, and push through pain to achieve greatness. So sit back and let me take you on this powerful journey step by step. It's not an easy story to hear, but it's one you'll never forget. David Goggins was born on February 17, 1975, in Buffalo, New York, into a family ruled by fear and violence. His father, David Goggins, was a man who believed in control. Control through power, fear, and pain. David's father owned a roller skating rink, but it wasn't just a business. It was a prison for David, his older brother, and his mother, Jackie. David forced them to work at the rink every single night, sometimes until 2 or 3 a.m., cleaning, serving customers, and doing anything he commanded. David didn't get to play, laugh, or live like other kids. Instead, he lived in constant fear of his father's anger. David was violent and abusive, not just toward David, but toward his mother as well. David remembers watching helplessly as his father beat his mother, feeling small, powerless, and terrified. And it wasn't just physical abuse. It was mental too. His father controlled every aspect of their lives. There was no freedom, no love, and no hope in their home. Life outside the roller rink wasn't any better. Their home was filled with cockroaches that crawled over everything at night. David talks about waking up and having to clean up the cockroaches before he could even start his day. It was exhausting, disgusting, and humiliating. At school, David struggled. He couldn't focus because he was always tired from the late-night work at the rink. He felt stupid and different from the other kids. He started to believe he was worthless, that he didn't matter, and that he'd never amount to anything. But David's mother, Jackie, was stronger than anyone realized. One day, when David was just 8 years old, she decided enough was enough. She packed up her things, took David with her, and escaped from David's grip. They left behind the roller rink, their home, and everything they knew. This was a turning point in David's life. For the first time, they were free. But freedom came with its own challenges. Jackie was now a single mother, struggling to provide for her 2 sons. They moved to a small apartment and lived in poverty, sometimes going hungry because they couldn't afford food. Even though they had escaped his father's abuse, David couldn't escape the scars it left behind. He was insecure, overweight, and full of fear. He felt like the world was against him and that he would never be good enough. At home, his mother worked multiple jobs to keep the lights on, so David was often left alone, with only his thoughts to keep him company. David's early life was a constant battle, against his father, against poverty, and against his own mind. He had every reason to give up, to believe that life would never get better. But deep inside, a spark was waiting to ignite. They moved to Brazil, Indiana, a small town where they hoped to start fresh. Yet, this was far from the end of David's struggles. David found school to be another battlefield. He was falling behind in every subject. His self-esteem was at rock bottom, and he started to believe the voices in his head that told him he was stupid. On top of that, he faced racism in his predominantly white school. Being one of the only black kids in town, he felt like an outsider every single day. The insults and stares made him feel even smaller. David writes about being called names and feeling invisible, as though no one cared whether he succeeded or failed. He also discovered that he had a learning disability, dyslexia. This made reading and writing incredibly difficult for him. School became a source of constant humiliation. He started skipping classes and doing everything he could to avoid being noticed. As if life wasn't hard enough, David's health began to deteriorate. He developed a condition called asthma that made it difficult to breathe, especially during physical activities. On top of that, he was severely overweight. David talks about his love for junk food during this time. He used food as a way to escape his pain, turning to sugary snacks and fast food for comfort. By the time he was a teenager, he weighed over 300 pounds and hated himself for it. Through all of this, the one person who never gave up on David was his mother, Jackie. She was his rock, his anchor, and his biggest supporter. Even though she was struggling to make ends meet, she constantly reminded David that he had potential, that he was capable of more than he believed. Jackie worked tirelessly, often taking multiple jobs just to keep the family afloat. Her strength and determination became a model for David, even though he didn't fully realize it at the time. Just when things seemed like they couldn't get worse, tragedy struck. Jackie started dating a man who David initially liked. For the first time, they had someone in their lives who brought a sense of stability and care. But this man was murdered in front of their home, shattering their fragile sense of security. David talks about how this event pushed him even deeper into darkness. He felt like life was out to get him, that no matter what he did, things would never get better. Despite all the pain, David began to notice something. He realized that no one was coming to save him. His mother was doing everything she could, but if he wanted to change his life, he would have to do it himself. One of the most vivid stories David tells is about his job at a skating rink and later working as a pest control technician. He had to clean cockroach-infested restaurants and deal with rats and other pests. He hated the job, but it taught him an important lesson. He realized that the world doesn't care about your excuses. If you want to survive, you have to do the work, no matter how disgusting, tiring, or humiliating it feels. One of the first steps David took to change his life was creating what he called his accountability mirror. This was a simple mirror in his room where he would write down all of his flaws and goals on sticky notes. David didn't sugarcoat anything. He wrote things like, "You're fat. You're dumb. You're lazy." At first, it might sound harsh, but this was his way of facing the truth. He realized that if he didn't admit his weaknesses, he would never overcome them. The mirror became a place where he confronted his excuses and motivated himself to change. David started doing small things to build discipline. He forced himself to wake up earlier, eat healthier, and move his body even though it hurt. These small actions planted the seeds of resilience. He learned that the key to breaking free from his circumstances wasn't waiting for someone to help him. It was taking action, no matter how small, every single day. David Goggins was at the lowest point in his life. He was overweight, struggling financially, and stuck in a cycle of self-pity. But something inside him refused to give up. He realized that if he wanted a different life, he had to take radical action. David talks about how this moment was the turning point for him. He realized that no one was going to come and save him. If he wanted to change, he would have to do it himself. David decided to do something most people would never even consider. He wanted to become a Navy SEAL, one of the toughest and most elite military forces in the world. At the time, it seemed impossible. He was too heavy, out of shape, and had no military background. But David didn't care about the odds. He knew that if he wanted to become a SEAL, he had to change his life completely. David started by tackling the things he hated most about himself. He woke up early every morning, forcing himself to exercise even when his body screamed for him to stop. Running, swimming, lifting weights, it didn't matter how hard it was. He pushed through the pain, but the physical transformation was only part of the battle. David had to deal with the mental demons that kept telling him he wasn't good enough. Every time he felt like quitting, he reminded himself of why he started: to escape the life of mediocrity, to prove to himself that he was capable of greatness, to break the chains of fear and self-doubt. When David finally went to the Navy recruiter, he was met with a brutal reality. He had just a few months to lose over 100 pounds if he wanted to qualify for SEAL training. Most people would have given up right there, but not David. He created a plan and stuck to it with an intensity that most people can't even imagine. He ran miles every day, worked out for hours, and completely changed his diet. David's transformation wasn't just physical, it was mental. He learned to embrace the pain. Every time he felt like quitting, he pushed harder. He realized that pain was temporary, but quitting would last forever. David eventually qualified for SEAL training and entered the infamous BUDS program. This program is designed to break people down, both physically and mentally. It includes Hell Week, a grueling 5.5-day test where recruits are pushed to their absolute limits with little to no sleep. David failed the program, not once, but twice. He was crushed, but he refused to give up. Instead, he saw failure as an opportunity to grow. He went back each time, stronger and more determined. On his third attempt, David finally completed Hell Week and graduated as a Navy SEAL. This moment marked a major victory in his life, but he didn't stop there. He knew that his journey wasn't over. One of the most powerful lessons David shares in his book is the concept of the calloused mind. Just like your hands develop calluses when you work with them repeatedly, your mind can become stronger when you face pain and adversity. David used every setback as fuel to toughen his mindset. He realized that the more you expose yourself to discomfort, the more resilient you become. David also talks about the 40% rule, the idea that when you feel like you've reached your limit, you've actually only used about 40% of your potential. The rest is hidden behind fear, doubt, and mental barriers. He started pushing himself past this 40% mark every day. Whether it was running ultra-marathons, doing thousands of push-ups, or enduring freezing cold conditions, David learned that the only limits that exist are the ones we place on ourselves. David Goggins had already achieved the impossible. He had conquered Hell Week, become a Navy SEAL, and transformed his life. But for David, this was only the beginning. He knew that life wasn't about reaching one goal and stopping. It was about constantly pushing forward, breaking barriers, and inspiring others to do the same. David set his sights on something even more extreme: ultra-endurance races. These races test not only your body but also your mind, with distances of up to 100 miles or more. David entered his first ultra-marathon unprepared and in terrible pain. He completed the 100-mile race in less than 24 hours, despite the fact that his feet were bleeding, his body was shutting down, and his mind was screaming for him to stop. This race wasn't just a physical challenge, it was a mental battle. David proved to himself that no matter how much pain he was in, he could endure. And once he realized this, he started setting even bigger goals. David didn't stop with ultramarathons. He set his sights on breaking the world record for the most pull-ups in 24 hours. On his first attempt, he failed. On his second attempt, he failed again. Most people would have given up, but not David. He trained harder, learned from his mistakes, and came back for a third attempt. This time, he succeeded, completing 4,030 pull-ups in under 24 hours and earning a place in the Guinness World Records. David teaches us that pain is not something to fear. It's something to learn from. Every failure, every setback, and every moment of suffering is an opportunity to grow stronger. He calls this process callousing your mind, building mental toughness by facing challenges head-on. For David, pain became a guide. It showed him where he needed to improve, where he was weak, and how much further he could push himself. As David's story spread, people around the world began to take notice. His raw, no-excuses approach to life inspired countless individuals to face their fears and push past their limits. He became a motivational speaker, sharing his story on podcasts, interviews, and events. His words resonated with people from all walks of life: athletes, students, entrepreneurs, and anyone struggling to overcome obstacles. One of David's most powerful tools is what he calls the accountability mirror. Every morning, he looks in the mirror and asks himself hard questions. He writes down his goals and holds himself accountable for achieving them. If he's failing in any area of his life, he doesn't make excuses. He takes action to fix it. This simple practice helped David stay focused and disciplined, even when life got tough. David's life is a testament to the idea that there is no finish line. Even after all his achievements, he refuses to settle. He continues to wake up every day with the goal of becoming better, stronger, and more resilient. He runs ultramarathons regularly. He challenges himself with new goals. He embraces the grind, knowing that growth only comes from struggle. David ends his story with a powerful message. Life is full of pain, hardship, and adversity. But these challenges are not meant to break you. They are meant to build you. Every time you face your fears, every time you push past your limits, you become stronger. David Goggins wants you to know that you don't have to be born special or talented to achieve greatness. You just have to refuse to quit. Let's finish with the lessons he teaches us. Lessons that can truly change your life if you embrace them. 1. Own your life. David Goggins says, "No one is coming to save you." This may sound harsh, but it's the truth. You are the only one who can change your life. It doesn't matter where you come from, how much pain you've endured, or how unfair life has been. Your future is in your hands. Own your mistakes, your fears, and your failures. Only when you take responsibility for your life can you take control of it. 2. Callous your mind. Life is full of challenges, and most people quit when things get tough. David teaches us to embrace pain, struggle, and discomfort, because these are what make you stronger. When you feel like giving up, push harder. Every time you overcome something difficult, you build mental toughness. And when you face your next challenge, you'll be ready. David says, pain unlocks a part of your brain that you've never used before. Push through, and you'll discover what you're truly capable of. 3. Stay hungry. David's life shows us that there is no finish line. Even when you achieve your goals, don't stop. Keep pushing, keep growing, and keep striving for more. He says, most people settle for a comfortable life. But comfort is the enemy of growth. If you want to see what you're really made of, you have to challenge yourself every single day. Am I doing everything I can to achieve my goals? Where am I falling short? What excuses am I making? David Goggins wants you to know this. You have the power to change your life. It doesn't matter how hard your past was, how much pain you faced, or how many times you failed. Every single day is a new chance to become better, stronger, and unstoppable. Don't settle for an average life. You have greatness inside you. It's time to find it. Your next step. Take control of your life today. Write down your goals. Face your fears. Push past your limits. Remember, you can